Hi, I'm Almeria, and today I'm going to read for you Saint Philip Neri from Stories of the Saints by Carrie Wallace, illustrated by Nick Thornborough. When Philip turned 18, he left his home in Florence and went to work for his uncle, a merchant near Monte Cassino. Philip's father didn't have a lot of money, but Philip's uncle said that if Philip did a good job, he could take over his business one day. Philip's favorite place in Monte Cassino was a beautiful chapel that had been built in a crack in the mountain where he loved to go to pray. And as he prayed, he decided he didn't want to spend his life as a merchant. He wanted to follow God. So without a thing in his pocket, he set out for Rome and found work as a tutor for some rich children. But at night, he'd walk through the dark streets to find a church or go down in the catacombs to pray. One night, deep in the catacombs, Philip prayed that God would reveal his gifts to him. A globe of fire appeared, floating in the air in front of him. It entered Philip's mouth and descended into his heart. Philip felt so much heat that he took off his shirt and fell to the ground shaking. As he lay there, a swelling the size of a fist appeared near his heart. It never went away for the rest of his life. But when Philip stood up from the floor of the catacomb that night, he was full of joy. He began to work with the sick and the poor in the city. He started a brotherhood to care for the poor people when they visited Rome, and for people who had been sent home from the hospital but were still too sick to work. Eventually, he was ordained as a priest. As a priest, he loved to hear confession, but he realized that the young people who came to confess to him didn't just need forgiveness. They needed guidance. So Philip invited them to get together to talk and pray. All kinds of influential people in Rome, writers, historians, musicians, came to the meetings. So did the priests who would one day become cardinals and archbishops. Many people who were part of the church at the time didn't really believe in God, even the priests. But Philip's meetings helped rekindle their love for God and for each other. And they were the first place that people got used to hearing a different sermon every time they came. Philip's meetings got so big that a new church had to be built to hold everyone. So the Pope agreed to let Philip found another order in his own group of monks. But it wasn't like other groups of monks who wanted to retreat into their monasteries. Instead, it was for people who wanted to keep living in the world and be a part of it. The members could stay for as long as they wanted, but leave anytime. Everyone had a vote about what happened in the order, and the leader had to do the same work as everyone else, even serve dinner. They weren't held together by strict vows, but love for God and for each other. Philip loved to laugh. When I met him on the street, one of his friends remembered, he would leave me so full of joy that I could not tell which way I was going. Even Philip's spiritual advice sometimes seemed more like a practical joke. One priest gave a beautiful sermon, so Philip told him to give it another 6 times so that people would think he only had one sermon to give. Another man always wanted to talk about hellfire and punishment at Philip's meetings. Philip told him to talk about church history instead. So the man talked about church history at the meetings for 30 years and published an important book of history. But Philip wasn't afraid to be ridiculous himself. To stay humble, he'd wear crazy clothing or shave half of his beard off. One day, travelers arrived all the way from Poland, hoping to see the great Philip. When they found him, he was sitting with another priest who was reading to Philip from a book of jokes. What Philip always loved best was to pray. "Be humble and obedient," Philip told people when they asked him how to pray, "and the Holy Spirit will teach you." But although Philip loved prayer, he never hesitated to help anyone the instant he was called. "We must leave Christ for Christ," he told his friends. His friends complained that people came to bother him even in the middle of the night. "They can chop wood on my back," Philip said, "so long as they do not sin." After Philip died, doctors discovered the reason for the swelling in his side. 2 of his ribs had cracked into an arch over his heart. Maybe long ago when he was praying in the catacombs, his heart had grown so big that it actually broke his bones. Thanks for listening.